It was a chilly afternoon in a quiet American town, where time seemed to slow, and the hum of old engines echoed down empty streets. Inside a retro-style diner, the aroma of coffee, sizzling bacon, and grease mingled with the soft hum of a jukebox. Sunlight streamed through turquoise-painted windows, casting a nostalgic glow over red and teal booths. Patrons chatted lazily, cups and plates clinking, until a single moment arrived that would stop every sound, every whisper, and turn an ordinary day into something unforgettable. In his usual corner booth sat Reed Dawson, known among bikers as Red Dog. Middle-aged, rugged, with tattoos crawling down his arms and a gold cross resting on his chest, his denim vest frayed with years of wear. Calloused hands rested on the table, shaped more by handlebars than handshakes. To most, he looked intimidating, a man who had broken rules, maybe hearts, but behind his hard eyes was something softer, something tired. He stirred his coffee absently, staring out the window, unaware that fate was about to join him. Then she walked in, or rather stumbled in. A thin woman, in her late 20s, wore an old gray sweater hanging loose over her frail frame. Torn jeans and mismatched shoes completed her worn look. In her arms, a little girl no older than 3 clutched her tightly, cheeks pale from the cold, hair tangled. Her eyes scanned the diner, not for a seat, not for a menu, but for a sign of mercy. The waitress behind the counter watched cautiously. Other customers glanced briefly before returning to their meals. Only Reed noticed the quiet desperation in the mother's movements, the gentle way she whispered to keep her daughter calm. She moved slowly toward his table, weighed down by fear and hesitation. Then, instead of sitting, she knelt beside him. The gesture caught the attention of nearby patrons. Her voice trembled as she pointed at his untouched plate, steam curling from coffee and fries. "Can I take the leftovers for my daughter?" The diner fell silent. Even the jukebox seemed to hush. Reed stared, speechless. The little girl pressed her face to her mother's chest, clinging to the thin sweater. The woman's eyes glistened, not just from hunger, but from the shame of asking. Reed looked down at his plate, then back at her. Something stirred within him, guilt, compassion, or perhaps both. He remembered his own past. Years ago, he had lost a family, a wife who couldn't bear the chaos, a little daughter he hadn't seen since she was 5. Every quiet night, he pictured that face, wondering if she ever missed him. Now, seeing this woman asking for food, not for herself, but for her child, he felt a shift. Without a word, he stood. The woman's eyes widened, expecting anger. Instead, he gently pushed his plate toward her and walked to the counter. The cook nodded silently. Moments later, Reed returned, carrying 2 takeout boxes and a bottle of milk. He knelt beside them, rough hands placing the boxes in her trembling ones. "This isn't leftovers," he said softly. "It's fresh, and there's more for tomorrow." He reached into his vest pocket and pulled out a small folded bill, enough for a week's worth of meals. The woman's lips quivered. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she looked from the food to Reed. Why would you help me?" she whispered. Reed glanced at the child in her arms. "Because once I couldn't help mine." Silence hung in the diner, heavy yet warm. Patrons watched quietly, some shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Even the waitress offered a cup of cocoa to the little girl. Reed sat back, heart heavy but lighter than it had been in years. He watched the woman leave, daughter in her arms, eyes brighter than when they entered. The diner's clatter slowly returned, but something had changed. Kindness had filled the room, like sunlight breaking through clouds. Later, as Reed rode home under fading light, wind whipping past, he felt something warm in his chest. Hope, forgiveness, a chance to start over. Somewhere out there, he hoped his daughter was safe, perhaps being cared for by someone kind, someone who believed that a single act of compassion could change everything, and that day in the diner, it had. A woman who had nothing reminded everyone what it meant to be human. A man who thought he had nothing left to give rediscovered a part of his soul he thought lost forever. As the neon lights flickered outside the diner that evening, no one who had been there forgot the sight. A single question: A single plate of food, and a silence louder than any words could ever be.